Welcome to the Discover Health podcast, where we explore the power of gut health, nutrition, and lifestyle to help you feel your best every day. I'm Dr. Josh Sharp, your guide on this journey to better digestion, more energy, and overall well-being. Each week, we'll dive into expert insights, practical tips, and real-life strategies to help you discover health. Ready to start discovering? Let's hit the trail. Welcome back to Discover Health Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Josh Sharp, and with me today again is special guest, Dr. Ricky Brar. Ricky is a father, a husband, a functional health coach, clinical mentor, and practice success coach. His passion for gut health began with his own journey as a patient. After suffering from over a decade of chronic digestive issues, fatigue, and debilitating anxiety, and working with over 10 practitioners, he was able to fully resolve his health symptoms through functional medicine. Since that point, Ricky became obsessed with finding the most efficient health strategies. He's worked with thousands of people, trained hundreds of practitioners, and developed many powerful talks across North America. He now lives out his purpose, which is helping as many people live meaningful and fulfilling lives through overcoming their health challenges. Welcome back, Ricky, and thanks for joining me today.
Oh, excited to be back and looking forward to this.
So if you missed our earlier podcast, I would highly recommend that you go back and check out one of our previous episodes with an interview with Ricky. But today our topic is going to be a little bit different. We're going to talk about the clock on the wall. We're going to talk about time and what that has to do with our health. So before we jump into that topic, let's define our terms just a little bit. So our topic is actually something called circadian rhythm. What is circadian rhythm and why is it important for our health?
A great question. It's such a big, long word and not one that we've heard before, but our body runs on a 24-hour clock. So when we hear about this term circadian rhythm, it references this 24-hour clock and all of the physiological functions in the body that accompany that. So a really easy way to think about this is we all wake up in the morning, we go to sleep at night, and things happen between that throughout the day. This is where across the globe, people have a lunchtime, right? We call it lunch. People have a dinner time. And even the way the body works, you might use the bathroom at a certain time. You might go for a walk at a certain time. You might work out at a certain time. So our body runs on this 24-hour clock. And the best example we can give of when you're impacted by circadian rhythm is if you ever travel to a different time zone. That's where the term jet lag comes from. And what is jet lag? It's just your circadian rhythm not adjusting to that new time zone. So it's our 24-hour clock and all of the functions that come along with it.
Really good description. So the circadian rhythm, obviously our body kind of does things on the clock, but why does our modern lifestyle disrupt that natural circadian rhythm?
Great question. So I know with food, when we talk about diet, we often talk about food as information, right? Like this food is protein, this is fat, this is carbohydrates, and then it breaks down into its smaller components. Just like that, the way our circadian rhythm operates is through light. Light is information. And that's where our modern lifestyle is unfortunately wreaking havoc on our health. And we all know, if you ask anybody, you survey 100 people, most of the time, 99 of them are going to agree that we are sicker as a population than we were 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And yes, the food industry gets blamed. Yes, toxins and all this stuff gets blamed. But the most overlooked factor, and I would put it pretty high up on the list, if not the first on that list, is disruptions to our circadian rhythm due to the way that we take in light. So if we look at our modern lifestyle today, most of us are indoors most of the day, and I'm sure many of the listeners will agree. We often, if you work in an office somewhere or a physical location somewhere, you often wake up in the morning, get ready, you're out the door, you get in your car, you drive to work, so you're sitting in a sheltered car, and then you might park in an underground garage, you might park somewhere, and then you go right into a building, and then you spend maybe a 9 to 5 there all day, right? And if you think about it, we are just basking in indoor light. And the problem with this, we could get into some of the technical details, is indoor light does not carry the same level of information as real sunlight does. And if you think about what we've been doing for thousands of years, our ancestors did for thousands of years, is they would spend a lot of time in contact with the sun. The sun was providing information for them most of the day. We get a watered down version of that. And that's actually where a lot of health issues arise from.
Yeah, well said. And it is so true that so few of us actually get enough sunlight, actually experience, the outdoors very often. And the bit of sunlight we do get oftentimes is coming through, UV coated glass. And so it removes some of that information and stuff. And so that's such an overlooked factor and one that I don't think is on very many people's radar. So how would someone know if that's an issue for them? What signs or symptoms might they experience if their circadian rhythm is out of sync?
Great question. So the first of them I would put as energy concerns. So if you're somebody who has considered yourself a not a morning person, if you feel you have to sleep a lot, or even after you sleep 8, 9 hours, you still feel pretty darn tired, chances are circadian disruption is playing a role to some extent. If you're a shift worker, it for sure is playing a role as well. And then I would say the opposite's also true is if you're somebody who never gets good sleep, that's a big sign that your circadian rhythm is influenced. And then the other part about the circadian rhythm, we'll get into some of the technicals, is part of what you regulate in your body with light is this amazing compound in our body called melatonin. And melatonin is anti-inflammatory, it's an antioxidant, it's anti-aging. It is something that is just does so much in the body that if you have unexplained inflammatory issues, if you have anything going on with your immune system, one of the places I would absolutely explore is what your circadian rhythm looks like.
That's so interesting. Melatonin oftentimes is kind of a misunderstood compound or misunderstood body chemical. Most people just associate it with, oh, I take melatonin to help me sleep or something like that. Why is melatonin so important for our hormone health, our immune system, and so many other body systems?
Yeah, to answer that question and package it, we could kind of go back to the start here and kind of
Okay.
talk about how it gets influenced. So we talked about the circadian rhythm, what the general overview is, but if we kind of get technical about it, there's two hormones that kind of run the show, and melatonin technically can be argued as a neurotransmitter, a hormone in some ways as well. But you have cortisol, which we know as our stress hormone, and you actually need cortisol. Cortisol is not a bad thing. It's the excess cortisol that's a bad thing. What cortisol is, it's actually what wakes you up in the morning. So when we get sunlight, when we get light in our eyes, you have these special receptors in the back of your retina in your eye. They have a big long name. They're called intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells. So big long name.
That's
I've
easy for
always
you to
tried to
say.
memorize that. Yeah, but basically they are they're looking for blue light in your environment. So they're sensitive to blue light, these receptors. And what blue light is, it's the bright light we get from the sun. So when you get blue light from the sun, that's actually what signals the sun is still up. And when this happens, goes into your eye, you get light information that there's a lot of blue light in the environment. It signals a place in your brain called your hypothalamus. There's something called the SCN there, a suprachiasmatic nucleus. Long story short, your brain then sends signals to other areas of your body telling it to do things because it's a certain time outside. Now, the problem here is your cortisol, it's supposed to be high in the morning, and then as the day goes on, it's supposed to decrease. And cortisol and melatonin, we always joke, they're kind of like star-crossed lovers, is when it starts to get dark outside, cortisol dips and melatonin supposed to start to climb to its peak. And this is kind of the day-to-day relationship we should have. Unfortunately, what ends up happening is that we mess up this rhythm because of the way we take in light. So if there's one part of the podcast you're going to pay attention to, this is like where maybe you want to even take notes on some of these numbers, where when we look at actual sunlight, if it's a bright sunny day, the way light intensity is measured is through a unit called lux, Lux. And you can actually buy like a lux meter. Many photographers use it to kind of know like what to do with their light as well. But sunlight has anywhere from 50,000 to 100,000 lux. So it's very bright. As we know, it's very bright. And even on a cloudy, overcast day, there's usually at least 10,000 lux out in the environment. Now, here's the problem. Indoor lighting. Indoor lighting is kind of like 50 lux to 500 lux. So it's nowhere near as intense as the sun, even on an overcast day. And then the other problem, if we kind of go a little bit deeper, is that if you look at once the sun sets and it's pitch dark outside, There's like almost zero lux out there. It's like 0.0001 lux or something along those lines, almost zero lux. And if the moon is up, let's say it's a full moon, and the moonlight is illuminating things, then you're looking at maybe like I think it's zero point 0.2 lux, something in that neighborhood. So like nothing. So now you kind of have the numbers like light bulbs, 500 and less, sun, 50 to 100,000, even 10,000 on a cloudy day. This is the big problem. And this is why these things get messed up is in the morning, we aren't getting sunlight. So when we're supposed to get sunlight, we're often stuck indoors. During this time, we're getting sunlight that is like 1,000 times less than what we're supposed to get during the day. But the bigger problem, I would argue, is in the evenings when we're supposed to get next to no lux coming in, we are bombarding ourselves with light that is thousands of times higher than we're supposed to be. So we are living completely in imbalance with nature, the way nature intended us to live. And there's consequences of that. Melatonin is not going to get secreted in adequate amounts if there's no darkness. And the opposite's true. You're probably going to make more cortisol in those moments. So melatonin, if you look at the research on it, it's again anti-inflammatory. It does calm your nervous system down, and that's where the sleepiness comes from. But it's also nociceptive. It's also an antioxidant. It's anti-cancer as well, and it directly impacts your gut as well. It actually influences the way your microbiome behaves. So if you are not secreting adequate amounts of melatonin, you can take melatonin as a supplement, but it's barely going to scratch the surface. It's a drop in the bucket. You have a circadian rhythm issue. And people with, hate to say it, the C word, cancers, that's somebody who definitely wants to take their circadian rhythm seriously. People with autoimmune issues, melatonin is immunoprotective as well, and immune boosting. So we want to make sure that you're getting adequate amounts of that being produced naturally. If you have any sort of unexplained inflammatory condition, joint pain, things like that, I would first look at your circadian relationship even before you look at what food you're eating.
I think that is going to be blowing a lot of people's minds, to be thinking of the timing and sunlight and light issues related to so many different areas of health. People should, and it's not a hard thing. I mean, it kind of is just because we have such a lot of habits that are associated with light intake, especially in the evening time. You're home from work, it's maybe darker outside. You turn all the lights on in your house. You watch TV or use your cell phone or a computer or something like that. What are some of the hidden factors out there that are hurting people's circadian rhythm? And what are some things that maybe the audience wouldn't know about, they wouldn't think about, obviously?
Yeah, great question. So if we take a look at it, it's usually in the evenings, I would say that most people are paying the price here. And it's often our devices. So if you're watching TV late, if you're on your laptop, your tablet, your cell phone late, you're bombarding yourself with blue light when you're supposed to get next to no blue light going on. So that's kind of the obvious one in the room, that you're bombarding yourself with that. Less obvious is actually light bulbs. People don't realize that. Let's say you tell me, Ricky, or let's say it's one of your patients and they're telling you, Dr. Josh, I take in like no TV in the evening. I just read my books and I hang out and I calm down. If you have overhead lighting on, that lighting is actually suppressing your melatonin. There's actually a study on this, and it's like one of my favorite studies to reference, but they actually looked at how much melatonin suppression happens with different forms of light bulbs. So the old school incandescent bulb, it's up to 40% reduction in melatonin. So quite large, and that's shocking in itself. But here's the kicker. Everybody these days, most people use LED bulbs because they're more energy efficient and cheaper as well long term. So that can reduce your melatonin up to 80%, which is just wild to think about. And then if we kind of go backwards the other way, if you look at firelight, something we've probably been using for thousands of years. So firelight and similar LED candles and things like that, to firelight, anything that mimics firelight, it's like a 2% or less reduction in your melatonin. So it kind of lets us know what we've been doing for a very, very long time and what kind of light the body does prefer in the evenings. So there's a couple factors here. One is you don't want overhead lighting, because the only time the sun is kind of above our head is like when it's at its peak. So noon, let's say 1 o'clock, around there. So a pro tip would be get lamps. And then the type of bulb you put in this lamp, ideally you want to use a red bulb if you can, because that doesn't have any blue light in it. But I know it's not always practical. It's not always fun. You might be bumping into things. But at the very least, you would want to make sure the light temperature is a little bit better. So you can actually buy these things called 2700 Kelvin bulbs. That's a light temperature, and you can find those at literally any place that sells light bulbs often as well. But you want to change the light, but switching to a lamp is a big one because it's no longer eye level and you can put it somewhere low as well. And then the other thing would just be this information going into your eyes. So we kind of talked about how we receive light information earlier and these receptors that are in our eyes. One thing you can do is you can buy blue blocking glasses. So you can buy amber lenses. Red will block it all out as well. And a common misconception that people don't know is they often get blue blocking technology put into their own glasses if you have prescription glasses. That's not going to take the blue light away in the evenings. It helps being in front of a computer throughout the day and things like that, but it barely changes anything into the evening. You do need that amber filter or red filter on that. And there's many companies who make prescription grade ones, but I would say your devices, your light bulbs is very important. And then if we go to the first half of the day, optimizing for sunlight. So people don't realize that even on an overcast day, you should probably go outside and get some real sun and get some real light information to start your day. It's what they tell you to do when you're jet lagged anyway. Like go out in the sun, and it'll kind of recalibrate your body. It's the exact same thing here. But again, we kind of live in this perpetual cycle of we have lots of obligations, we got to get to work, and we often neglect these small things that can make a huge difference long term.
Absolutely. So I just want to be thinking about this clearly and kind of summarize a little bit. So when it comes to circadian rhythm and my health, I kind of want to be thinking about light almost like I do food or almost like I do like water intake, but doing it at a certain time, just like everyone knows that you shouldn't wake up at midnight and eat a huge, meal. That's not going to probably end well. You're not going to sleep out the rest of your night really well. So eating, at certain times is important, but think about almost like just how the sun is rising and then setting and try to manage my light and my light amount as kind of how the sun is going for that day. Is that a good way to think of it?
Absolutely. Live in accordance with the sun and that rhythm and try your best to take in that information. You mentioned something very important earlier as well, is that when we're indoors, like a lot of people will probably wonder, okay, can I just get sunlight? My office has a nice window. Okay, is that sufficient? And it's actually not, because you get a couple forms of radiation from sunlight. UVB is the one everybody's always worried about. That's what actually can burn your skin. That's what's in tanning beds as well. But you do need that to manufacture vitamin D. The UVA is the other form. And with UVA, what happens with Windows is UVA light gets blocked. So you're actually not getting that information in the amount you need it and in the form that you need it. And the other big thing that I've learned to call out even more as time has progressed, and I never realized it was such a big thing, are people who do wear glasses. If you wear glasses or contacts, you're actually decreasing the amount of light information heading into your eyes. So I'm not telling you to stop wearing your glasses, but if you can, when you're taking in sunlight, when you're getting morning sun, you should probably take them off in that moment to get some real information getting to you. And again, you're not staring at the sun. Don't do anything silly. Like we're talking about being outside while the sun is still on. There's lots of great apps that also help you kind of tell like when you should get outside. There's a great app called D-Minder, and that's available I'm pretty sure it's for both Apple and Android, no affiliation whatsoever. And that's something that can kind of help you know when to get outside as well.
Okay. So let's imagine that we have a listener who is a shift worker who kind of has an opposite schedule. Maybe they work third shift overnight. Is there anything they can do to try to improve their circadian health?
Great question, and one we get a lot. So my first answer, probably no one's going to like it, but I have to say it, is if you're a shift worker, you probably should do whatever you can to not be a shift worker anymore. And I completely empathize and I understand. And like, I know both me and you, Josh, I'm sure we can agree on this, that if we had an emergency and we showed up to the hospital at 2 a.m., like, and they say, hey, nobody's here because they're optimizing their circadian rhythm, like, we'd be pretty upset.
Yeah.
So I have so much love for healthcare practitioners, but they're literally giving their life to that job. So I know there's paying your dues, there's doing it for a while, but do your very best to get out of that situation as soon as possible. And so don't do it electively, is basically what I'm saying. If you're a shift worker of some sort and it's your choice to not be, don't do it. It's not something that's going to be good for you in the long term. And those that do have shift work and they have to go through it, the days that they're not on their shift work, they should optimize for circadian rhythm to the best of their ability. There's lots of biohacks you can do. For example, you can actually buy these things called sad lamps. I like to call them happy lamps. They're basically really bright white light boxes, and they actually produce some of them more, but the average is about 10,000 lux, what it is like outside on an overcast day. And that can really help you reset your circadian rhythm as well. And this is where working with somebody who knows how to utilize melatonin and taking melatonin strategically could be so helpful for you overall. Emphasizing naps is important as well, because I know we're mostly talking circadian rhythm, but when you sleep, there's also something called your glymphatic system, which needs to operate to clean up the brain and detox the brain out. So this is often why people who work night shift don't have good memory. They're forgetting stuff. They're very foggy and groggy. And also your meals. You want to make sure that you're still doing your best to time your meals circadian wise. So like if you have a midnight shift, like I wouldn't necessarily have like a 1,500 calorie meal at like 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. That's going to really disrupt things as well. So there are some strategies there that they're big band-aids for the bigger picture. But if you're somebody who does shift work, you need those band-aids in place.
Okay. How could someone adjust their rhythm, like their circadian rhythm? You had talked about traveling, we kind of get that jet lag. So if let's say someone had to travel, and they move several time zones away from their natural place, what's a way they could kind of help themselves in a situation like that?
A great question. So you want to get sunlight as soon as humanly possible to calibrate your brain. If you're going somewhere that's not sunny, the happy lamp I spoke about earlier, most of them are thinner than a tablet, like or as thin as a tablet, I should say. They're very easy to pack away as well and take with you. That's something great to invest in. And it's anywhere from like 30 to 50 bucks. It's not a big investment at all, and they last you a very, very long time. So that's something that is just a game changer to have. And do your best to sleep there, especially when you get there. Even if you're not feeling sleepy, go to bed at what time normal people there would normally go to bed. So that would then help you get back on that schedule. And again, adjust your meal timings to get back on that schedule. So the good news is the body typically bounces back really fast from jet lag. But if you do these things, it really helps. And that's where, again, the strategic supplementation of melatonin can really help as well.
Okay, that's great advice. I'd also heard, I think I read it, maybe maybe it was in a book by Clint Ober called Earthing, but another technique that he recommended, obviously what you said, getting sunlight exposure on your eyes and your skin as soon as you can is good. He recommended also like grounding, like putting your feet on the earth or your hand directly on the actual ground can actually help as well. I had not realized that. I'd never heard that before, but have you heard of anyone trying that or doing that? Hey, friend, real quick. If you've been enjoying this episode and you're looking for high quality, professional grade supplements that you can trust, I've got something for you. Check out our curated online store at discoverhealth.gethealthy.store. We've handpicked practitioner grade supplements that can be delivered straight to your door. And to say thank you for listening, you can use the code FIRST10 to get 10% off your order. That's discoverhealth.gethealthy.store. Your health simplified.
Yeah, grounding has so many benefits. I think the light information is going to trump all, but I can see it being potentially beneficial as well. Like anytime you travel somewhere that has a beach close by, you usually bounce back from any tiredness you're feeling pretty fast.
It's amazing what a beach can do. Yeah. So if somebody wanted to
Yeah.
start like improving their circadian rhythm today, what's a good place to start? What's a good first step?
Take a look at what your week looks like and what your day looks like already, because you kind of have to map this out for yourself. There's a lot of nuance here as well, depending on how technical we want to get. For example, there's this concept of chronotypes, where we literally have different genetic time types. And that's where you've probably heard that some people are morning people. And like, if you're not a morning person, we usually don't get along with these people because they're so bubbly at 5 a.m. And then the majority of the population, they're named after animals. So the early risers are lions. And then we have the bear chronotype, which is the most abundant. That's what people mostly are. I'm a bear as well, where we're not morning people, but we don't sleep in much as well. We kind of wake up at a reasonable hour. So it's kind of the most traditional one, I would say. Then you have your dolphins, and then you have your wolves, which are more like your night owls and later clocks as well. So you do want to live in accordance with your chronotype. But I did come across a new study not too long ago where it came out of the University of Colorado, and they actually took people who were early risers and people who considered themselves late. They sleep in late. They took them to a 14-day camping trip, and they did all sorts of measurements. They measured their blood levels of melatonin. They also wore devices that measured how much light they received from the outside as well. And there was two huge realizations in the study they had, or two conclusions they came to. One is they found that people lived seasonally. So in the winter months, when the sun would set earlier, they would all actually go to sleep 2.5 hours earlier naturally. So they weren't allowed to use any devices, no cell phones, no alarm clocks, nothing at all. They would go to sleep earlier. So one thing everybody listening can do is in the winter months, go to sleep earlier. And then what they found is in the summer months, this was crazy as well. People went to sleep later. But then what they also found kind of overall is they found that people who claim to be night owls and people who claim to be their early risers, they actually synchronized their clocks to the point that all the people that claimed to be night owls, they were no longer night owls. They were waking up at the exact same time as the early risers. So if we kind of think about this, we all need this recalibration. So kind of take a look at what your schedule looks like and then make time for that sunlight. So, or if it's artificial through like a happy lamp or something like that in the winter months, make time for it. Try your best to get it first thing in the morning. I know lots of people online have made this practice famous, like Dr. Andrew Huberman, one of the biggest podcasts online. And he says like, you should just make a beeline for your door and try to get some real sunlight first thing in the morning. And then even throughout the day, break up your day, try to get out there on lunch, try to get out there at 2, 3 o'clock. Give your brain as much information as to what time of day it is here. And remember, windows don't count. Like, do your best to get actual light information into your eyes and make it in accordance with the way that you live. I would say even scheduling your meals, your workouts, like make sure it fits into your schedule. Like you mentioned earlier, Josh, that if somebody eats a meal at midnight, there's no way it's going to digest the same as a meal at noon, right? And that's because circadian wise, our circadian rhythm also influences our gut, what enzymes we secrete, when we secrete these enzymes, how our gut motility functions. All of these variables are influenced by the circadian rhythm. So you need to get back in line. And it almost sounds cliche to say, but you need to live kind of like our ancestors lived. Like we're going to live way more modern and luxurious, but from a timing standpoint and how much sun you're getting and all of that, do your best to get light information.
That's such good advice. Is there any books or any more information out there if people wanted to learn more about circadian rhythm and their body clock? Is there any books or other resources that you would recommend?
Yeah, I could give two here. I'll give one book recommendation, and then I can give one recommendation of somebody who I've just admired, and I find that they're doing a great job getting this information out there. A great book is called The Light Doctor, and that's by I think it's Martin Moore Ed. I'm trying to remember that from memory. And that is like one of my favorite reads. And he's actually who references a lot of the studies and the numbers that I'm referring to as well. It's like one of my favorite reads on it. So The Light Doctor. And then the second one, there's an amazing individual on Instagram and social media you could follow. Her name is Dr. Alexis Cowan, Cowan. And she is doing an amazing job really showing the deeper research, the deeper connections as to how important the circadian rhythm really is and how to live in accordance with that as well. So those are like the two primary resources I share with others.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And for people that want to get in touch with you or maybe learn more about stuff that you have to offer, I think last time you shared a website, was it www.rbrar.com? Is that right?
That's correct. So you'll find everything I offer, all my social media channels, everything is linked there.
Okay, I'll put a link to that in the description of this podcast episode. Thank you so much for joining Discover Health Podcast and coming on and sharing some of your expertise. I know this is a topic that you could probably share even more with us. And so maybe possibly in the future, we could reconnect and do another episode with maybe some more details about chronotypes or maybe some more details about circadian rhythm. But thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Thanks for tuning in to the Discover Health podcast. Remember, your health is a journey, not a destination. Keep exploring, and we'll see you next week.